Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In a small town nestled in the heartland of America, life moved at a deliberate pace, where neighbors exchanged pleasantries and the cicadas filled the evening air with their songs. It was the kind of place where childhood memories were etched into the sidewalks, where streetlights flickered to life as the sun dipped below the horizon, and where tragedy felt like a distant echo reverberating from somewhere else, far away. Yet, that peace was shattered on a late summer morning in July 2017. Residents of Maplewood awoke to the unsettling news that shook the very foundations of their community. It began with a single phone call to the local sheriff's department. A voice trembled at the other end, relaying the discovery of a body in the woods just outside town. Panic rippled through the sleepy streets as whispers spread like wildfire, igniting curiosity and fear in equal measure. As deputies arrived on the scene, a thick fog hung in the air, mingling with the scent of damp earth and pine. The crime scene was cordoned off with bright yellow tape, flapping as the breeze tousled it, marking the boundary between safety and the unknown. Officers shuffled cautiously through the underbrush, navigating the tangled limbs of trees where the sunlight struggled to reach. Photographers crouched, snapping pictures of the harrowing vista. A lone figure lay sprawled amidst nature's indifference. It was here, in this stillness punctuated by the crackle of radios and hushed voices, that the story began to unfold, a story that would unravel layers of the town's facade, revealing hidden secrets lurking beneath its surface. The identity of the victim would set into motion a chain of events that would haunt Maplewood for years to come, forcing its residents to confront the darkness residing not just in the woods, but within their own lives. The victim. The sun struggled to pierce the dense foliage above, casting mottled shadows over the lifeless form identified as Sarah Mulcahy. A beloved member of the community, Sarah was known for her easy smile and compassionate heart. At just 24, she was the kind of person who made everyone feel valued, fitting seamlessly into the fabric of Maplewood. Her absence would be felt acutely. As detectives began to piece together the details of Sarah's life, they learned she had been a graduate of Maplewood High, dedicated volunteer at the local animal shelter, and an aspiring artist. She spent hours painting landscapes that mirrored the beauty of her surroundings, each stroke rich with emotion. Yet there was more to her story, an elusive thread that weaved through her charm and warmth. Interviews with friends and family painted a picture of a vibrant young woman whose life had recently taken a darker turn. In the months preceding her death, Sarah had grown distant, her laughter more infrequent, and her vibrant energy dimmed by an unseen shadow. Whispers hinted at a troubled relationship, one that friends had urged her to leave. The name David came up often, yet no one seemed willing to expound on the nature of that relationship, a protective veil draped over Sarah's personal struggles. As the coroner examined the body, sharp details began to emerge. Bruises around her wrists, signs of a struggle, and faint marks on her neck. The cause of death was still pending, but the unmistakable signs of trauma told a grim tale. With each new discovery, more questions erupted around Sarah's final moments. Who had she been with the night before? What had transpired in the shadows of the woods where she now lay? As investigators delved deeper, they couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was buried beneath layers of pretense. The quiet life of Maplewood had become a stage, and Sarah Mulcahy was no longer the artist painting bright landscapes, but a canvas upon which the darkness of humanity revealed its haunting stroke. The crime scene. The forest surrounding the crime scene seemed to hold its breath, an eerie silence settling over the numerous officers in attendance. The trail, often frequented by joggers and hikers, now felt foreign, an ominous threshold into the heart of a mystery that demanded answers. Yellow tape fluttered in the gentle wind, a stark juxtaposition against the rugged beauty of the trees. Investigators walked the perimeter cautiously, their eyes trained for every detail that could lead them closer to understanding this horrific event. Sergeant Leanne Harper, a seasoned detective with an intuitive grasp of human behavior, knelt beside Sarah's body, swiftly assessing the scene around her. The ground was disturbed, indicating a struggle had taken place. Broken twigs and freshly turned soil hinted at desperation, the instinct to fight for life now evident in the remnants of the encounter. As forensics arrived, the sterile whir of equipment filled the air, contrasting starkly with the violent history that had unfolded. In this serene setting, they carefully collected evidence: a half-empty bottle of prescription medication, remnants of a torn shirt nearby, and, hauntingly, a single shoe off to the side, a symbol of the chaos that disrupted the tranquility. Sergeant Harper's heart raced as she coordinated with medical examiners who began their meticulous work. Each tool they used felt heavy with the weight of what lay ahead, the search for truth overshadowed by the weight of loss. As the team documented the scene, Harper turned her thoughts inward. The distinct feeling that Sarah had not ventured into these woods alone troubled her. Perhaps the key to unlocking the past lay not just within the forest, but within those who inhabited it. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced and flickered, a sense of urgency enveloped the scene. Time was ticking, and with each passing hour, the chance to uncover the truth drifted further away, like the fading light. There was a killer among them, hidden within their peaceful community, and unveiling their identity would take tenacity, determination, and perhaps an unsettling confrontation with the darkness that thrived in the very heart of Maplewood. The early investigation. In the days that followed the discovery of Sarah Mulcahy's body, the air in Maplewood grew thick with tension. Rumors rippled through the town like wildfire, feeding fears and speculation as investigators scrambled to piece together the fragments of her final hour. Sergeant Leanne Harper spearheaded the inquiry, her determination casting a long shadow over anyone living within the town's periphery. As the truth began to unfurl, the investigation began at Sarah's last known location, the local bar where friends gathered on Friday nights, the Rusty Nail. It was a haven of laughter and camaraderie, yet it now felt tainted by the tragedy that had unfolded. With the bar's dim lighting and the remnants of spilled drinks still clinging to the floor, Harper spoke to patrons with methodical precision, where alibis were solidified and shadows of doubt lengthened. Max, the bartender, described a vivid image of Sarah that night, her laughter ringing like a cheerful bell. He recalled her leaving, a little wobbly but smiling, a stark contrast to the somber girl portrayed in news articles. Yet his memory faltered when asked about David, Sarah's on-again, off-again boyfriend. Max had seen them argue a few weeks prior, but felt it was nothing more than the tumult typical of young love. The detectives quickly moved on to the Mulcahy home, the warmth of the family dwelling now turned cold with grief. Sarah's mother, Julie, was a whirlwind of emotion slooping between denial, anger, and sheer heartbreak. She clutched a framed picture of Sarah at graduation, as if willing her daughter back into being with sheer willpower. She was happy, We talked every day. There wasn't anything wrong. Shuli insisted, tears spilling down her cheeks. Yet, Sarah's best friend, Mia, revealed a different perspective during her somber interview. Sarah started seeing someone else. David wasn't the same. He'd changed. One minute he was sweet. The next, it was like someone else was in there. She confessed, her voice trembling. I told her to be careful, but she brushed me off. Sergeant Harper noted the emotional turmoil dancing around them. Clues were starting to gather, like shadows in the twilight, hinting at the darkness that may have intertwined with love and betrayal. David, now a focal point of the investigation, would need to be drawn into the light of scrutiny, reflecting all the complexities and darkness of the human heart. The early investigation was just the beginning. It was only a matter of time before the tangled web of relationships began to unravel. The dead ends. As the investigation unfolded, the initial momentum began to wane, leaving behind a trail of frustration and unanswered questions. Detective Sergeant Leanne Harper felt the weight of the case pressing down on her, every dead end chipping away at her resolve. With each passing day, the hope of finding clear evidence seemed increasingly elusive, and the specter of unresolved grief hung over the town like a heavy blanket. With David's name repeatedly surfacing in interviews, the team endeavored to find him. After several fruitless attempts to reach him via phone, they learned he'd left town only days after the murder. Troubling, yet not unexpected. David's demeanor had shifted from concerned boyfriend to an elusive figure who raised suspicions about a possible escape from accountability. The more they searched for him, the more he eluded their grasp. Harper's attention turned to the forensic reports. The DNA evidence collected from beneath Sarah's fingernails held promise, but the wait for results dragged on frustratingly slow. Every passing hour felt like an eternity, and the anxious anticipation seeped into her team, creating a palpable tension within the precinct. Each day was marked by mounting pressure from the community, desperate for answers hoping they could satisfyingly close the chapter on a grim legacy. In an attempt to push the investigation forward, detectives reached out to people who had interacted with Sarah in the days before her tragic demise. One lead led them to Mark, a mid-level manager at an insurance company where Sarah had recently worked. He spoke highly of her work ethic and talent, yet there was an underlying tension in his demeanor. Harper noted his hesitance as he mentioned an incident where Sarah had confronted him about a group of colleagues making inappropriate comments. She was fierce, not scared to speak her mind. But Mark's voice trailed off, betraying his discomfort. Hours spent chasing flares of hope turned into quiet rooms filled with lingering silence, the smell of burnt coffee, now an overlooked constant in the precinct. No promising tips emerged, and the investigators felt trapped, sifted through the evidence only to discover strands leading to nowhere. With every dead end uncovered, Sergeant Harper knew one truth. Beneath the surface of small-town charm, secrets festered, and in the silence lingered the very heart of a mystery waiting to be solved. Was the killer hiding in plain sight, or had they slipped away forever? A break in the case. As the investigation simmered in stagnation, a sliver of hope appeared unexpectedly late one evening. It was a frigid Friday night in December when Detective Sergeant Leanne Harper received a call that would reignite the flame of the investigation. The voice on the other end belonged to Officer Jacob Mills, who had been combing through the archived reports of local crimes for any potential connections. "I think we might have something," he said, urgency threading through his tone. Harper felt her pulse quicken as she listened intently. Officer Mills explained that a few weeks before Sarah's murder, There had been a series of petty thefts reported in the vicinity of the forest where her body was discovered. These incidents involved young adults, mostly in their late teens, who had been caught trying to break into cars parked at trailheads, often under the guise of camping trips. Among the group was a young man named Tommy Delaney, associated with David. Harper's mind raced. She had dismissed these notices as mere juvenile mischief. But now, a connection seemed to materialize. Rising from her chair, she traced her finger along the map where both the crime scenes of the thefts and Sarah's murder intersected. Could David be linked to this group? Had Sarah stumbled upon something she shouldn't have? Within hours, the team had tracked down Tommy Delaney to a nearby rundown motel. He had a record of minor offenses, but would he hold the key to explaining Sarah's untimely death? With Officer Mills and a few other detectives in tow, Harper approached the motel room, exhaustion mixing with a renewed sense of purpose. Confronting Tommy proved challenging. He wore a mask of nonchalance, casually deflecting questions while revealing little substance. Yet beneath his bravado, Harper glimpsed cracked shadows of fear flickering in his eyes as she broached the topic of Sarah. Pressed about the last time he saw her, she noted a distinct nervousness. I might have seen her hanging with some friends, but I didn't. I don't know anything about that, he stammered, clearly avoiding eye contact. The fear in his eyes sparked Harper's intuition. It was as if he held secrets he dared not share. In that moment, she recognized the fragile thread. With a few pointed questions, the truth slowly began to surface. Tommy, it seemed, had seen Sarah the night of her disappearance. He had witnessed David's volatility firsthand before Sarah confronted him about their troubled relationship. Shadows of every person who had brushed against Sarah now loomed larger, creating a tangled web of connections, pulling Harper in deeper. As the evening wore on, she realized they were no longer grasping at darkness. A light had finally broken through the heavy clouds that had shrouded their investigation. With each revelation, the landscape shifted, a reality etched in shadows began to clarify, and for the first time in weeks, the path forward seemed illuminated. The suspect. Fueled by the breakthrough from Tommy Delaney, Sergeant Leanne Harper shifted her focus squarely onto David. As the primary suspect, he was no longer an elusive figure hiding from the investigation. He had transformed into the embodiment of the town's collective fear. Harper knew it was time to locate him, to unravel the tangled narrative that now revolved around David's possible involvement in Sarah's tragic demise. With each passing hour, officers scoured known associates and locations he frequented. Running on little sleep, Harper felt the adrenaline surge as they finally caught a break. A tip from a local gas station attendant revealed David had been spotted in a neighboring town, lingering around a truck stop. Officers swiftly set up surveillance, their hearts racing in sync with the urgency in the air. When they successfully apprehended David just after dawn, he appeared disheveled, sporting dark circles beneath his eyes, like a ghost who had long since left the land of the living. The once charismatic young man now bore the weight of suspicion, a palpable fear clinging to him that gripped the hearts of those tasked with questioning him. Under the fluorescent lights of the interrogation room, Harper maintained a calm demeanor, despite the tension that rippled around them. She needed to approach this delicately, balancing persistence with enough empathy to keep David from shutting down completely. "We just want to talk about Sarah," she began, gauging his response. For a moment, he remained silent, staring blankly at the table. But eventually, as if under a spell, he began to speak, recounting a version of events that hedged between sorrow and defensiveness. David claimed they had had a fight the night she went missing, but insisted no physical confrontation had ever occurred. I loved her, he sputtered, his fear twisting his words into a disjointed mess. But Harper sensed the cracks in his story. There were too many contradictions, too many evasive turns, and she pressed harder. Tommy Delaney said he saw you that night, David. What did you do? She probed, watching as he squirmed under her unwavering gaze. His expression faltered, a momentary twitch in his eye revealing the weight of guilt pressing down. We argued, but I didn't do anything, he insisted, his voice barely above a whisper. I just left. I don't know where else to go. While he maintained his innocence, Harper remained undeterred. She was acutely aware of the protective barriers David was putting up, a facade designed to mask his emotions. His reluctance to engage fully with the details of that night screamed louder than words. Each evasive gesture became a thread that unraveled what was left of his credibility. As the interrogation continued to unfold, a greater dilemma emerged. How could she separate the truth from the layers of fear and guilt shrouding this young man? In the dim light of that small room, it became clear that David was the elusive key to uncovering the darkness that led to Sarah's tragic end. Harper had been in these situations before, needing to peel back the complex layers of human emotion to reveal the devouring truth lurking beneath. And so she proceeded a dance of questions. Each heartbeat resonating with the hope of clarity. The trial. Months drifted by as the community of Maplewood grappled with the haunting specter of Sarah Mulcahy's murder. It was an arduous wait filled with mixed emotions, grief intertwined with anger, sorrow woven with the burden of unresolved questions. As the trial approached, the town prepared to face the reality of what had transpired in their once peaceful streets, transforming an air of camaraderie into one laden with tension. The courtroom was a den of anticipation on the day of the trial. Dressed in dark suits, the jury filed in, their faces impassively a curtain shielding that would soon unfold. Sergeant Leanne Harper sat in the front row, a constant reminder of the case's enduring weight, her heart pounding in tandem with the rapid rhythm of the proceedings. David sat across the aisle, gaunt and pale, a mere shadow of the young man who had exuded charm and confidence only months earlier. Surrounding him were his legal team, composed and meticulous, evaluating every movement in the room, every flicker of emotion that crossed the faces of the witnesses. As the prosecution laid out its argument, recounting the timeline of events leading up to Sarah's untimely death, Harper felt the heaviness of each word. Tommy Delaney's testimony provided the damning pieces that painted David as both a jealous lover and potentially a volatile threat. Drawing on the details of Sarah's last known moments, the jury listened intently as the pieces of the puzzle began to come together in agonizing narrative fueled by love turned sour. Yet, David's defense was just as relentless, framing the argument around the idea of innocence, portraying a young man in turmoil but incapable of taking the fatal steps that led to murder. His attorney emphasized the tumultuous relationship, hinting at Sarah's own struggles and suggesting that perhaps she was trapped in a web of her own, making a heartbreaking twist that left residual anger festering in the courtroom. As the testimony progressed, Sarah's family was called to the stand. Julie Mulcahy wept openly as she spoke of her daughter's laughter, a poignant reminder of the life that had been cruelly snatched away. Each word tugged at the hearts of jurors and spectators alike, binding them closer to the emotional core of the tragedy. It was a visceral reaction, a reaffirmation of why they were all there: to seek justice for Sarah, to give weight to the silence that had fallen over her vibrant presence. Harper's mind raced with the mounting tensions, every observation feeding her intuition. It was in the subtleties, the subtle shifts in David's demeanor, the flinch of his fingers reaching for his collar, when the pressure mounted that she began to sense a crack in his narrative. There were atmospheric moments when he locked eyes with the jury, and instead of a defensive shield, a glimpse of desperation surfaced, hinting at the truth he fought desperately to conceal. The trial climaxed with closing arguments that resonated through the courtroom, a fierce battle of wits and emotions. Harper held her breath, bracing for the jury's decision, knowing that whatever they determined would send ripples through the town, echoing far beyond the walls of the courthouse. When the verdict finally arrived, whispers spread like wildfire among onlookers. The judge banged his gavel, and as the words "we," the jury, find the defendant guilty of manslaughter reverberated through the room, a wave of emotion washed over everyone. Relief mixed with mourning flooded the air. Justice had been served, yet the community remained forever altered. In that moment, amid the tears of sorrow and the flickering glimmers of hope restored, it became abundantly clear they were no longer fractured by tragedy, unified in remembrance. Sarah's essence would be woven into the fabric of Maplewood, forever a reminder of the delicate threads of life and lovely a poignant lesson, echoing between the stillness of quiet moments and the cacophony of human emotion. The aftermath. In the wake of the trial, Maplewood faced the profound challenge of healing, the town's collective heartbeat still racing from the emotional turmoil that had unfolded over the past month. While the verdict had brought a sense of closure, it left behind an unsettling residue, a profound sense of loss tangled with the scars of a tragic event that would shape the community for years to come. The weeks following the trial were laden with reflections of what had transpired. Julie Mulcahy, Sarah's mother, found herself walking through the familiar halls of Maplewood High School, where her daughter had flourished. The vibrant art displayed throughout the building, once a source of joy and pride, now evoked a deep sense of sorrow. Each brushstroke on the canvases served as a reminder of the life that could have been, a reminder that would linger endlessly in the air. In an effort to channel their grief, Sarah's friends organized a memorial art exhibition in her honor, inviting local artists to contribute pieces inspired by her spirit. It was a profound testament to her creativity, a collective effort to celebrate the light she had brought into their lives. The gallery was adorned with floral arrangements, along with portraits and landscapes, capturing the beauty of the world through Sarah's eye. On opening night, the laughter that filled the air offered a bittersweet solace, a fusion of happiness and heartache. However, hidden beneath the surface of communal gatherings and emotional tributes was an undercurrent of discontent. David's conviction had stirred conversations among townsfolk, memories resurfacing of unresolved tensions that echoed far beyond the personal tragedy. Some blamed Sarah for her involvement with David, projecting misguided anger onto her memory. Others debated the justice of the sentence handed down upon him, feeling that it fell short of accountability for his actions. The fabric of the community had become frayed, anxiety simmering just beneath a thin veneer of polite. Sergeant Harper remained close to the Mulcahy family during these turbulent times, offering her support as they navigated the pitfalls of grief. She attended the memorial, standing silently amid the throng of attendees, a guardian of truth wrapped in sorrow. As she spoke to Julie, Harper felt the weight of their shared experience, the longing for answers now transformed into the haunting weight of collective responsibility. "It'll take time," she assured, her voice steady. "We'll get through this together." Then came the moment when Julie decided to speak publicly about her daughter's legacy, one intended to spark change and prevent other families from suffering a similar fate. Standing at the podium during a community forum, she offered a heartfelt call to action, urging young people to understand the nuances of healthy relationships, a plea that resonated deeply within the crowd. Her words spoke to the shadows of confusion that often clouded love and loyalty, inviting conversations that had long been swept under the rug. As months slipped into years, the town slowly started to reintegrate a sense of normalcy. But the shadows of Sarah's story lingered in cafes where families gathered for lunch, in the schoolyard where children played, and within the hearts of those who remember. The legacy of loss propelled change, indelibly marking the community as one transformed. Maplewood began initiatives aimed at educating young people about emotional health and recognizing red flags in relationships. Sergeant Harper found solace in the seeds of change birthed amidst the wreckage. As she gazed upon the new mural honoring Sarah that adorned the wall of the local community center, she felt the pulse of hope. It whispered of resilience, a testament to how the threads of tragedy, when woven carefully with compassion and awareness, could lead to a future filled with light. Time would march on, but the essence of Sarah would never fade, lingering as a guiding light for conversations that would reshape the very fabric of Maplewood, a legacy of awareness, beauty, and love. Come my reflection. In the quiet aftermath that followed the tumultuous events of Sarah Mulcahy's life and death, Detective Sergeant Leanne Harper found herself often lost in reflection. Night after night, she sat in the solace of her dimly lit office, sifting through case files that had not yet closed in her heart. The specter of Sarah's story remained etched in her mind, a reminder of the fragility of life and the complexities that lay behind each seemingly simple interaction. The mural dedicated to Sarah blossomed on the community center's wall, depicting her vibrant spirit, locked forever in a moment of laughter, paintbrush in hand. It had become a gathering point, not just a tribute, but an invitation for dialogue and understanding. Children from the local schools filed in, learning about health and love in relationships in ways that were once deemed taboo. Each discussion that emerged from that mural echoed through the halls of the house that had once been filled with laughter, breath, and creation. Seasons changed, flowers blooming, and leaves falling. Harper understood that healing was not linear. Families still bore scars of grief, yet there was solace in the connection to the past. A shared commitment to ensure that Sarah's vibrant spark continued to ignite hope and empathy where darkness once dwelled. The trial, the memorial, and the mural were not just markers of loss. They were transformative moments that bound the community closer, forcing it to confront its shadows and learn from them. In accepting the grief, in weaving the memory of Sarah into their daily lives, Maplewood rediscovered its voice, and the ache of remembrance transformed into a chorus of resilience. As Harper closed the case file for the last time, she could finally breathe deeply. There lay not just an ended investigation, but an opportunity to redefine what justice truly meant, a gift of introspection and authenticity for the living. Something beautiful emerged from their sorrows. What had begun as a desperate search for answers had turned into a legacy of awareness, forever altering the landscape of Maple.